afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's Eric Kaufman here on the 22nd of August 2018. I'm here with Chris Taylor. Chris is the CEO of Great Bear. Great Bear is an explorer in the Red Lake camp. They've had a number of successes in the last few months, but they put out some amazing holes this morning. The market was very appreciative of it. And you know, my feeling is there's a lot more good stuff to come. Just want to point out that one of the things with this company that's definitely an advantage is that it was very well put together. There's very little cheap stock when it was put together. There's only about 24 million shares out now. They've got a couple of million on hand. I guarantee the way it traded today, there's a bunch of warrant money coming in, and there'll be more over the next few days. One thing that impressed me because of the logistics is you guys have got pretty low drilling costs. I mean, your all-ins about 200 a meter. So I mean, really, you guys can keep drilling for a long, long time without having to worry about financing, although I'm sure it's being offered. Yeah, right, no comment. Red Lake, as a lot of you probably know, it's a famous mining camp, high-grade gold, mesothermal systems. One of the great things about Red Lake is these systems tend to go very deep. If you get on a good, well-mineralized one, you know, these mines are very long-lived producers, low cost because of the grade. I originally looked at Great Bear because two of their properties neighbor Pure Gold Resources, which I've followed for years, and are probably on trend to what Pure Gold is drilling now. But once I looked at it, it became obvious that the real focus for you guys, for now anyway, is Dixie Lake, and with good reason, of course.
Yeah, correct. Well, the numbers that we put out today show the reason why that's the case.
Can you just give people a quick highlight of what you put out this morning?
We hit about 16 meters of just slightly under an ounce, I guess about 27 grams in one hole. We had a follow-up hole that we put in immediately after that, which was about 7 meters of about an ounce and a half.
Those are pretty wild numbers. And when I initiated coverage a little while ago, I mean, part of what I was interested in was where you're drilling now. Although there's several really good-looking targets on this very big structure that you're drilling, but maybe you can give people a quick, quick explanation of why the Fold Nose, which is where you reported these from, why would you go looking at a place like that?
That's a great question. Some of the major gold occurrences in Red Lake are in the noses of folds. And I think people would be aware if they look at the main Red Lake gold mine, which is operated by Goldcorp, really made Goldcorp. I mean, if we think about it, they had a very high-grade discovery there. Some of the levels in the high-grade zone are right at these fold noses, very much like what we're drilling right now. So I think it's a characteristic of some of the major mine deposits in the region, and that's why we had that sort of target on our hit list of things that we wanted to test, and we're fortunately successful.
And one of the things that's one of the other advantageous things that these intercepts you reported today, they're what, about 100 meters depth, give or take?
Yeah, pretty much.
Which is very shallow. I mean, the high-grade zone, which as Chris mentioned, and quite correctly, made Goldcorp. I mean, that started at what, about 1,800 or something? It was pretty far down.
And it goes.
And it just keeps going. I mean, they're down, I don't even know how deep they are now. They're deep.
Over 2.5 kilometers.
Yeah, and that's common for mesothermal systems. They're not like, we're so used to seeing people drill like epithermal systems and stuff you see in Nevada. I mean, one of the things with those systems is that the top to the bottom of the good stuff tends to be like 200-300 meters.
Yeah.
That's not how mesothermals work. Mesothermals, it just can go on and on and on and on.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, what should we expect going forward? I mean, have you done more drilling in and around this area, or is it drilled somewhere else? I mean,
what we really have is it's a really prolifically mineralized contact, and it's about 10 kilometers long on our property. And I remember we were talking about this some time ago. And what would happen is if you unfolded that contact, it would probably be about 20 kilometers long. It's a major sort of gold-bearing contact. So we've got drill holes that are going into various places along that, including the hinge that we just drilled, and both sides of what is really this very long, tight fold on the property. There's going to be more drill results coming out in the near future regarding that drilling as well.
I noticed when I looked at your drill maps and the historic holes, you know, as you mentioned, it's a fold hinge, so there's basically two sides to it, a north and a south limb.
You got
the south limb's had almost no drilling. Do you know why that is? I mean,
I think just because when Teck made the initial discovery, what they did was a geophysical survey called a max-min survey. It lights it up like a Christmas tree, right, this zone. They just drilled down the middle of it. There's a little wiggle in the zone, and where it wiggles, they just kept drilling in the same line, and that's the outer margin of that geological contact. That's where the gold is. So they concentrated all their drilling right in that area. But as you said, it's a fold. So what happens is, if you just continue following the outside, eventually you wrap around on the other side, and theoretically, it should all be the same stuff. We've only got one hole announced on it so far, but we did hit, it was 20 or 30 meters of the silica that you like to see in these zones, and a bunch of gold hits in it as well, up to several grams. So yeah, we will be doing more drilling into that side of things as well. That'll be part of our upcoming story.
Okay. And one thing I would point out, and it's not a, I guess it's not part of the retail story, if you will, but I think it's important, and I think it may be very significant going forward. I noticed that you made specific mention of red mica.
Yep. Yep.
And Bob Singh, your very talented VP Exploration, who's a really, really well-known old Red Lake hand. He mentioned what's called a D2 folding, and both of these structures and this alteration, they're pretty well known in Red Lake to be intimately associated with most of the larger deposits.
Yeah.
So although I don't expect, I'm sure most people reading the release would have gone, okay, that's nice. I got a feeling you're probably getting calls that you're not going to talk about. Okay, never mind.
But you're right, that's the key feature, that some of these features, you only see them in the producing deposits, right? So we have Bob, who's fantastic. Bob Singh is an extremely talented geo. We have a few geologists that work with us on the project level that are ex-Goldcorp. They spent years drilling underground at the high-grade zone for Goldcorp, and that's where they've seen these kind of signatures before. Right. So they see these silica veins with some sulfides, a lot of visible gold, and it's flanked by this red-brown hydrothermal biotite. And they said when you're blasting underground, you hit this red-brown biotite, and then the next round will take you right into the stuff that looks like it was with a paintbrush, right? A gold colored paintbrush. So what we see is the same alteration envelopes around our hinge zone, and that's what really got our crew excited. We knew, even though the first drill holes we had were only a couple meters wide in the hinge zone when we drilled them, we knew that we were onto something major, and we then followed up with the current drilling that you're seeing now. We're sort of expecting it in a way.
Now, you've reported, about half your drill holes? I think 5,000 meters, and this is a 10,000 meter program, so there's 20, 30 holes coming still?
Yeah, about 20 to 25 holes are still on the way.
And I think it's probably safer to assume that you're probably just going to keep going at this stage. I mean, one thing that I know you've got is because you're right by the highway and because the loggers just went through, I know you've got really good access, so you don't have a lot of seasonality issues at all? Well,
one of the things you mentioned was the drill cost. We actually came in way under budget on this drilling. We were expecting it to cost a couple $1 million. It cost about 1.3. So we're like $500,000 under budget, and we're way ahead of schedule. So the drilling's been super easy. It's been really cheap to operate. It's a fairly good assumption, because we're under budget and ahead of schedule, that we're going to keep the drill going.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty safe assumption.
Yeah.
Lots of news flow, lots of high grade, great story. You guys got to check it out.